And our panel is back with us, and we have Kiron Skinner with us as well. I want to go first to Kiron and ask about some of the things that Donald Trump is going to be doing that are not only unusual, but something that a lot of free market conservatives have been praying for decades, one of which deals with education. It's not thought out very clearly, but the idea that poor people in America would have the ability to take a voucher, a school voucher, as part of their tax payments, a voucher, and take it and use it to go to the school of their choice. Rich people and upper middle class people have always had that choice. Poor people have not. Donald Trump wants to extend this experiment of a voucher nationwide. Explain how important that is.
It's actually essential to Donald Trump's success. We knew that he was a force of nature, but many elites did not know that he could tap into a level of political artistry that they could never reach by addressing issues that you've just talked about that are often taboo in the context of a presidential race, where political operatives often say, stay away from the more controversial issues. On education, vouchers, charter schools, we're going to see a lot of support from Donald Trump in that area. In my state of Pennsylvania, I serve on the board of Propel Schools, a set of charter schools that serve primarily African-American students rimming Pittsburgh. And it's phenomenal to see how they've been lifted up by having choice, their parents, the opportunities, more going to college. These are the kinds of issues
right.
that
By the way,
helped Donald Trump turn some of those blue states red.
Yeah, I said it hasn't been tried. It has been tried. It has been experimented, but in very small fashion. This would extend it nationwide.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lisa, I mean, isn't that a key issue? I mean, this was one of the big battlegrounds that Donald Trump talked about, was the idea of charter schools versus the teachers union, which was deeply invested in the Clinton campaign.
Well, look, I think the big thing for Donald Trump is Donald Trump throughout the campaign presented himself as a builder, as a fixer, someone that would provide solutions to the problems that so many Americans were facing. And if you look repeatedly at the polling, whether it's the wrong track in the sense that, you know, the majority of Americans believe that the country was heading down the wrong track. You look at exit polling, they wanted a strong leader. And, you know, Donald Trump repeatedly talked about rebuilding the nation. And that also comes to our nation's education system as well, rebuilding that, rebuilding infrastructure, rebuilding the economy, getting the economy moving again. And so I think, you know, that is really sort of what propelled him, is the sense that he presented himself as both a strong leader and also someone that would rebuild America, that would make America great again, quite simply.
Kat, we've been talking about the presidency and the House and the Senate. We haven't been talking a lot about the courts. It has been a problem for conservatives, at least for years, that very often the courts have been legislating by their decision, taking over, usurping authority that our founders had meant for elected representatives on a whole range of things, including issues that deal with businesses. Donald Trump already has issued a list of his Supreme Court nominees. Unlike Hillary Clinton, he was willing to put forth a list. They're all pretty conservative constitutionalists. This could actually change America, the way we function on a day-to-day basis as individuals, as businesses, more than what happens in the House and the Senate.
Absolutely. And I know for a lot of people who were never Trump, they thought about the courts a little bit. He put that list out and they decided, okay, maybe I should vote for Trump. I think what was really telling is when Chris Wallace asked about the Supreme Court in the debates, Hillary said she wants to nominate people who are Supreme Court justices who will stand with this or against this. That's not what it's supposed to be about. She didn't mention the Constitution, which was mentioned in the question. She was talking about the court that she wants to advocate for certain issues. That's not how it works. That's how the other branches of government work. But the whole reason we have that one is because it's not supposed to do that. So it wasn't just, you know, speculation. Yeah. She was saying that flat out. That was what she wanted to do with it. So I think that that's a big issue for a lot of people, and even people who are upset about it on the right, who are maybe were never Trumpers, worried about the GOP, can feel better about that. But I think a lot of people are just in a lot of shock right now. But the Supreme Court, I think, played a pretty big role in all of this.
If I could ask you guys to stand by for 1 second. We have some news now on Hillary Clinton. Fox News confirming that Hillary Clinton will speak tomorrow morning I would assume that's this morning, a few hours from now, but this is the word that we have officially gotten. We, of course, heard John Podesta come out on the stage and tell everyone to go home for the night, that there were more votes to be counted. Since then, we heard that she did call Donald Trump to concede. So now we're going to be hear from Hillary Clinton later on today, I would bet that is. Emily, let me ask you, you had talked in the last hour about reaching out to the other side and what it's going to take to heal the nation, something that both sides expected of the other should the other win. What is the first thing that you think Donald Trump could do?
I think the first thing Donald Trump could do is give a full-throated apology to the different groups that he's offended or outrightly attacked along his campaign. I think it's really bothered a lot of people who not just disagree with his policies, but fear what kind of leader he'll be like, the fact that he can't seem to give a genuine apology. And I think seeing that could actually build some bridges without even making policy compromises yet.
But isn't that kind of what he did tonight when he said that I want to be a president for all Americans? I want to unite all Americans. I want to be
that's not an apology at all. I mean, it's not like he said, I'm sorry for mocking a reporter for having a disability. I'm sorry I made fun of John McCain for being a war hero who suffered through the Vietnam War and was captured.
Ultimately, what it came down to was the issues. It came down to the fact that Americans feel like this country was heading down.
Won on the issues. That's not the same as healing the nation, though.
Okay.
I do think it's a little different.
We got to go one at a time so that we can hear from everyone. Kat, I mean, it almost sounds like as you hear these guys argue about this, we're relitigating the same territory, and now the election is over. I mean, what would be a way to heal and move forward without going back over the old territory?
I think it's going to be impossible for a while. I was watching CNN earlier today, and everyone was saying, "Oh, Hillary's the tone there is not a matter of if, but when." So I think that right now it makes perfect sense that a lot of people who are Hillary supporters or who were not supportive of Donald Trump aren't really ready for that yet. Obviously, the tone that he set in his speech tonight was a great one, but a lot of people had a lot of really strong feelings about this election.
Sure.
And strong feelings don't just go away just because a certain result is in. I think it won't, apologize this, that, say this, that. I think it'll have to be more in terms of action, more in terms of him continuing to give speeches like that, more in terms of continuing to focus on policy and having policies that are making things better. Because people aren't going to believe it. People have been really affected. Even just an I'm sorry or this or that wouldn't really help. Because we've heard we're going to unite all people before. That was Obama's entire thing.
We've got some breaking news. I just want to ask Kiron, before we go to that, just a question. We're not going to know about the demographic breakdown of this for a few days now. But the fact is Donald Trump was making inroads with the African-American community, with Hispanic community, with communities that at times his opponents had said he'd insulted so badly they would never go to. Do you think he will make more of an outreach and they will be more receptive to him than perhaps they were in the campaign?
Thanks for asking that important question, because what I find striking about Donald Trump's presidential campaign is that he talked more about the state of Black America than any Republican presidential candidate, I think, has ever talked about the state of Black America in modern times, and more so than most Democratic candidates, including Hillary Clinton. There's a paper trail now from his presidential race of arguments and evidence and ideas that have been put forth, and the time that he spent in the community that I think will be something like, the hand-tying commitments that he will make into the future. And I think it's significant, and it was underreported throughout the final months of the presidential race.
All right, stand by for one moment. We have more news right now. Russian President Vladimir Putin reportedly congratulating Donald Trump. This is according to the Kremlin. We are told that Putin expressed hope of ending the crisis in Russian-U.S. relations, as well as hopes for a joint effort on global security and other international issues. This will be certainly an interesting one to follow, David.
Wow. Well, Kat, let me just get right on that one and get Lisa to jump in, too. Foreign policy is going to be tremendous. I mean, one of the campaign positions of Donald Trump was that Hillary had done a very bad job as Secretary of State, that her agenda as set for her by President Obama had led the world to be less safe than it was before they came into power. You think not only of Russia, the reset, which was a disaster. You think of the Middle East, the growth of ISIS, perhaps pulling out the troops in Iraq too quickly, China's takeover of certain islands in the South Pacific that it had no authority to take over, and there was really no action to prevent them from doing that. Are we going to see a very dramatically different kind of foreign policy from this new administration?
Yeah, it's hard to say, of course, but we know that Hillary would have been more of the same foreign policy. And I think that we've been in the same wars, we've been doing the same things for so long now that people weren't as concerned about what specifically he was going to do, other than, oh, it's going to be something different. And I think that's true across the board for Donald Trump. And the way that she presented him as, oh, we don't want his hands on the button, we don't want him to have the nuclear codes, I think that it was kind of tough, given the fact that so many people remember how much she wanted to get involved in other countries and how unsuccessful she was doing that.
Lisa?
Yeah.
Well, I think that absolutely Americans wanted strength. I mean, we saw this in the exit polling. I think they feel like we have, lost our standing on the world stage, and that other world leaders view us as weak. But I do honestly think that foreign policy is probably going to be where his need for growth is going to come from, and probably one of the biggest learning curves that he's going to have, and where he's really going to need to rely on bringing in some of the best minds for devising a foreign policy strategy. I mean, I think domestically he's got some really great plans in terms of energy and, kind of regrowing the economy and rebuilding the economy. But I think foreign policy, he's going to, that's probably going to be some learning there.
Emily?
You know what? I do agree that people aren't happy with the Clinton foreign policy, and yet perhaps Donald Trump's win will be credited to unhappiness with her time as Secretary of State or the Obama administration overall. But I do think there were a lot of people within the Republican Party who were also concerned about Donald Trump seeming to have what some might say, cozy relationship with Russia, and that really irked them as well. That flies in the face of traditional GOP foreign policy to have such a tight relationship with Russia, with Putin. And so it'll be interesting to see how he reconciles
I never understood that. I never
Evidence
understood
of a
somebody
tight
being able to talk
relationship.
about Donald Trump's tight relationship with Putin and not talk about
He's praised the
Hillary
man
Clinton's
who's a dictator,
actual
along
tight
with
relationship
North
with
Korean
Russia.
dictators as well.
And,
This has been
with
part of
giving
his
away a
foreign
fifth of our
policy that he's
uranium and getting $145 million to the foundation. I think that, to me, would be a closer relationship if I were comparing
Oh, definitely.
it to.
And I do think the Clinton Foundation will be part of when they do an autopsy of the Clinton campaign of what may have brought her down. I don't disagree with that at all.
That's a cozy relationship.
We are going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back with more, the latest updates. Oh, we are going to take some market updates right now. All right, let's check out the U.S. stock market futures. The Dow Jones Industrial Future down 261. The NASDAQ, look at that, 109 points on the NASDAQ is a huge loss, but compared to over 200 points to the down, it has improved quite a bit. Losses substantially now in European stocks. They opened about an hour ago, down about 2%. But look, they have recovered. They have recovered enormously. The FTSE 100 basically flat, little further down than that. Some key commodities, gold, that had been up $60 an ounce at one point. Now it is up $24. Still pretty good for the gold bugs, but look at this, under $1,300. It had been over $1,300 an ounce for most of the night. And oil is down, but not by a lot, $0.50. And the Mexican peso is down again because of the wall. All right.
All right, stay with us. We've got Tony Saig and David Webb coming up next. We'll be right back.